starting point would just be talking us through kind of what your days used to look like from start to finish, and like how those have kind of adapted, and like things that are still part of your day to day, but other things that, you know, are on the back burner for now or that have changed, and how you've adjusted to those, or what do those look like now?
So just to make sure I get this so I don't get off topic, because I like to get off topic. So pretty much, how has the day, what did the day used to look like? And then how has that changed a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, really the normal, day to day of, pre-corona 2020 or 2019 or whatever the number is. I believe it's probably 2019. But pre everything, it was, even though we're not in a corporate world, it felt very corporate-y in the sense that it was very regimented. There was a wake-up call. There was a, first task of the day that needed to be completed while at home. And then that moved into first task that we needed to be completed at the gym. And then the follow-on, coaching sessions, follow-up tasks at the gym when it came to meetings or nonprofit work. And then the, normal process of from 1:30 until 4 o'clock was my workout time, coaching from 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock, almost Monday through Friday. And then, getting home 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. And then that was rinse, recycle, repeat. And then has been that way for, probably 2 or 3 years now. So it was very regimented before this, and I do well with structure that way. It just provides me a lot of security knowing that this time of my day has been blocked off to take care of these things. It's like, my OCD is as extreme as they come. It's like knowing that the round peg is going to be available for the round ball. It gives me a lot of comfort knowing that I can get the task done in the allotted time. And I don't need to be stressed or anxious about how or when am I going to get something done. I think how that has changed to today is not necessarily opening up my regiment by any means, but having a different relationship with task completion. Pre-corona, task completion was if I started something, I wanted to get it done in that day or the following day. I am very uncomfortable and very much so dislike projects that continue on outside of the time I have planned to complete them, because I know that has a trickle effect on everything else that I need to do. And now I am completely okay stopping a project, stopping a task, or getting halfway with something and being done with that for the day or being done with that for the week. Simply because I know right now with the undefined end date of everything, I am willing to sacrifice tasks not being completed for staying busier for a longer period of time, because I ultimately know the idle hands of what will be the death of me in this whole thing. So I'm a lot more okay with not completing things and letting them take time to be done, because I know at the end of the list of things to do, that list will last a lot longer than my typical approach, which would be just put the hours in and get the work done, and it really doesn't matter how long it takes, but the task needs to get done. So I think, my normal day-to-day has just simply changed with how I view of getting things done. I was much more everything needed to get done in a strict set of time before this, and now I'm okay with projects lasting a little bit longer. And that's something I hope to carry on in the future, because I kind of realized that at the end of the day, it's not necessarily what you got done that day, it's the impact you had that day. So kind of a little bit of a mindset and then also a routine shift there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that when you heard about all of this quarantine, stay at home, knowing that we'd have to be doing home workouts instead of at the gym, do you think this was something that you adapted to over time and kind of took some time to understand it? Or was this something that you heard quarantine and you knew exactly how you had to tackle it, and what changes you had to make with your routine?
Yeah, more the latter than the former. Going into this, and then there's a commercial out right now that kind of frames this very well. Veterans have a very easy time with social distancing because we've done it somewhere before. Whether it's been boot camp for me was 13 weeks, deployment for me was 7 months, 4 years of service. Everybody who's a veteran has at one time kind of dealt with something that completely disrupts your normal day to day. So I knew going into this what I had to do, the things I had to change, and I executed, those things pretty quickly to allow me to have, like I said, the thing I'm trying to avoid, which is the nothing to do and kind of just staring at a clock and knowing time passes much more slowly when you do that. So I was ready going into it pretty almost right off the bat, knowing what I had to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess on a lighter note of that, is there anything within this quarantine that is like a new discovered skill or something new, that like a new hobby that you didn't have, or something that you didn't have time to do before that now you're like really like capitalizing on this time and like loving more, or a newfound like hobby or anything like that you enjoyed before, but maybe you just didn't have the time to become an expert at it?
Yeah. Not necessarily anything that was new, but something that I never gave myself time to enjoy. Everybody has their own meditative thing that they do, and mine is simply like just using my hands to do things. Building, fixing, cleaning, whatever. I have to keep my body busy, and then that's where my mind is happy. So I think the thing, it's not new, but I'm becoming much more diligent about taking time to just to take time, but then also be excited about staying moving. So when it comes down to, cleaning, like I've honestly never cleaned this much in my life. And it's not necessarily something I enjoy, but it's something I respect the process of it. And when it comes down to it, I really, at the end of the day, would enjoy it. If I absolutely had to do it for a living. And the same thing goes with like lawn work. It's, owning a house is one of those, never done it before kind of things, and never really had time to take on all the projects that needed. And being really excited about, like seeding my lawn and watering my lawn like 3 times a day, which is
sounds like very old man things.
No, it's completely asinine, but or it's like, well, why don't you get a sprinkler? And I'm like, well, a sprinkler is, a replacement for if you don't have the time to do it. And I was like, I have nothing but time right now. So I would much rather stand out there with a garden hose in my hand and water my lawn the slow old man way than, set up a sprinkler system and have an efficient way of watering my lawn. I don't know. It's just,
it'll teach you appreciation for your grass a little bit more, I think.
Right,
when you have to take the time with the hose.
Right, and the respect and the process of doing all of it. So I think, to answer your question, like what do if there's anything new that I enjoy, it's not necessarily new things, but it's giving myself an okay to just enjoy what I'm doing at a much slower pace than just getting it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny, growing up, my mom would always say whatever my room looked like is kind of how my head was structured. She kind of like correlated. So if my room was super clean, she knew that my head was very in order and I had everything down. But then if my room was an absolute mess, my mom was like, you just have a lot on your mind, and like your mind's kind of a mess. And I look around my apartment right now and I have like my bathroom drawers are kind of disheveled because I'm redoing my whole bathroom, and I have like 4 hands-on projects going on in my apartment right now, and I'm like, I think I'm just way overly excited that I'm here and I have the time to like repaint drawers and cabinets and walls, and I'm like, I have project stuff all over like 600 square feet. So I think you could say my mind's a little bit of a mess, but
That's awesome. That's a great
it's all good, healthy things.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, though. It's a very on point mother you have.
Yeah, I would say so. So I guess going back to like things that are different now, what is like one quirky thing that you missed that you did not anticipate missing, or something that was like part of normal life before that now you're like, damn, I really missed that. And it could be something that is like very simple, or it could be, I don't know, just something that you miss right now.
I think the thing I miss the most about it, and you even said this, like I miss being able to meet new people. I miss, well, I guess I would frame this a little bit differently. I miss the ability to introduce new people to our community. it's something I enjoyed always doing, but, was just like, well, you being here is healthy for the business. You being here is healthy for you. It's a win-win for everybody. I selfishly miss a lot of that right now because I miss the amazingness that our people are and the community has provided us. So I think just to frame that very beautifully is I miss introducing people to what we have built at the Hill and what we continue to hope to build.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that's pretty cool is seeing all of the members interacting with the virtual gym, especially with the new app and things like that. But there is a sense of humanity that you start to miss, of just like seeing those people and shaking a hand, like physically shaking a hand. But it is cool to see people like interacting on the different platforms that we have or that the gym has, to bring people together. But I think a lot of the coaches across the board, when I talk to them, it's that sense of humanity that even seeing a coach in passing or seeing them at, when you go to pick up rental equipment or something, it's like, oh my gosh, like a coach, like a person, like I really miss that.
I know. And I would say too, on top of that, like the high fives and fist bumps, but God,
yes.
I'm a hugger of a person. Like I've always been somebody who really, like, I don't know, it's just something I have a connection with when I can hug somebody. And that fucking sucks. Not being able to do that it's really hard to see John Mary, all my Chocolate Burpees people that I've, been through some things with, and all of the athletes at the Hill that I have a relationship that's that deep with. It's really hard to see somebody and not be able to hug them and shake their hands.
Yeah. There is going to be plenty of hugs going around when we get back. I'm sure of it. It's not going to be any more high fives and fist bumps. It's going to be like, go around and give everyone a hug, a nice sweaty hug.
We used to high five and fist bump, everybody give a hug at the end of this workout.
We're making the whole community a group of huggers. So I guess talking about just like how day-to-day life is different and things that you're doing now that you have time for, what if there was a piece of advice that you could give somebody, or just one like tool or tactic, what is one way that you are slowing down? Because obviously life is a little bit slower now, and so when you're not having to get into a car and be go nonstop and caught in traffic and having to grocery shop once a week and things like that, what is one tool that you use to slow down or just to kind of appreciate being present in a moment?
I mean, my biggest thing is what I'm focusing the most on now is quality, not quantity. And this is something, again, trying to carry over into everyday life past this whole thing. I used to be very, very proud of the plate that I could carry and how well I could carry it. Just meaning I was very proud of the fact that I had 3 task lists that I needed to complete at any given time with 10 to 15 things on each task list. And I could still coach a great class, have a great workout, and on the outside be very overly excited to see everybody. And the shift in mindset of all that now is I'm trying to just get one thing done a day that moves me towards the direction that I want to go. One thing. And I think some guidance for people who are struggling of like, how do I continue to grow and challenge myself and progress my career and all of these things where we are a growth-minded community. I would encourage individuals to think of what's the quality of what you're doing, not necessarily what's the quantity of what you have on your plate, because really what you do, how you do anything is how you will do everything. And if you can put fanatical attention to detail in how you clean your shower, how you put attention to detail in the jobs you need to complete at work, obviously you're going to be matching that or beating that. So how well you do something has become much more of a focus of mine, not necessarily how much did I get done in that day or how much can I continue to put on my plate. So taking a very qualitative focus, not such a quantitative focus on my tasks, has really allowed to just get better at things. And I've done things during this quarantine that have literally been on my task list for 6 months, some over a year. And the reason I get to do those now is because I don't get them done in one day. I'll stop at, a certain point and say, all right, that was really good. And I'll come back to it in 2 or 3 days when I have another boost of energy or something hits my mind just right. So quality over quantity has been a big, big change for me. And it's something I would encourage a lot of people to think about. One thing every single day that moves you to the person you want to be, not necessarily trying to get to the top of the mountain all in one effort.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because talking to you earlier this week just about like different, or last week, just about different adjustments and things. I think a lot of us in the community have a very much, like you said, a growth mindset where we're used to having our plates full and we're used to always being with somebody or somewhere at a certain time. And I remember last week you also kind of touched on a point of like just appreciating, like it's okay to have that growth mindset and it's encouraged and it's amazing, but it's okay to have days where you just accept and appreciate where you're at in that given moment, and you focus on the things that are part of your life and you just focus on improving those. And so I know like you and I were talking about like, I'm in a job right now and I love my job and it's great. So how can I just improve that? Like going back to that quality. So, you're in your house right now. It's just like, how can you improve like the DIY projects? Like how can you make those the best that they can be? Or like simply, like you said, cleaning a shower. Like how can you make that the best that it can be and just appreciate like where you're at now while still having that growth mindset, but appreciating like just where you're at now. And not always feeling like you have to chase the next thing or have your plate full of 1,000 different things going on.
Right. And I think a lot of people, and I think our society, we're all guilty of this, and we respect people who can. We respect a lot of people who, oh my God, look at so-and-so, they can do this, this, and this, or, this CEO has the ability to be the wealthiest person on the planet, but also raise a family and go on vacation. We respect a lot of people who seem on the outside to carry a lot of different things and have a lot of different things to do. But I think the thing we miss is that at one point that person was very complacent and they were okay with complacency because they were learning. They weren't always focused on the next thing. They got something done, they reflected on it, and they were really excited about it being done. And they weren't always just driving the stake into the ground. Sometimes they picked their head up and saw the sunshine and realized that it was a really good day. So I think, that whole, be okay with where you're at. Try to move in, a slight direction every once in a while, or try to, get one thing done towards where you want to be. But you don't always need to march with endless pursuit. Sometimes it's okay to just stand still.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. So taking a humorous approach on coronavirus, and not necessarily the virus, but just this state of the world and the fact that honestly, we probably will never live through something like this again in our lifetime, a pandemic that puts us all in our homes, which is still crazy to me that it's even happening. While scrolling through like social media or talking to friends, what is like the funniest comparison or like the funniest meme that you've came across about this whole quarantine? Because we all got one of them. We got one that it's like, yep, that's exactly it.
As long as we don't need to be politically correct, but the best one that I've ever seen so far, and anybody who watched Tiger King can relate to this. So
I know which one you're talking about.
Right. Everybody at this point should be ready to like at least laugh that there are people in this world who, if you thought you were like the outlier, like just know that there's other people like Tiger King around, which makes this world even better to be a part of, just different walks of life. But the best meme was a kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, something like that. And he had like an assignment book that he was holding up. And the teacher was asking, what did you learn over your coronavirus break? And the next picture below it just read, I learned about that bitch, Carol Baskin. I'm like, of all of this, of like, you can just take a step back with everything and just see that documentary, understand the craziness that was of what it was, and then also have a humorous approach about this time. And it touched on homeschooling. It touched on, the social demand of, what's going on, and also being stuck at home and what's on Netflix and all that. It touched on so many different aspects. So really the difference between comedy, what did they say? The difference between comedy, what is it? The difference between comedy and what's the negative on comedy? But anyway, it's timing, and really the timing of that meme is freaking perfect. Like
Yes.
that's the coolest thing, funniest thing that I've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a couple good ones, or I've seen ones that are like, I've never related more to a dog before in my whole life. Like how excited they get when you come home to take them for a walk. I've seen ones on like how these little dogs, like their legs are being walked off because they're going on like 6 walks a day.
Dogs standing on top of cabinets and like, all right, we're done. We're not
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or I have seen a lot about just like how summing up all of this, it sounds like a second or a third grader wrote it, and it's like, and then we didn't have school for the rest of the year, and the whole world ran out of toilet paper, and it's like, it when you put it all in chronological order, it really does sound like it was written by like a second grader.
Right.
So
2020 sounds like such a futuristic year, and right now we're like exchanging toilet paper for handkerchiefs.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. We're all, yeah, it's a pretty bizarre time. And I really don't think, I mean, obviously like the seriousness of the virus is, you take it very seriously, but I think the whole state of the world and kind of what's going on, it's interesting. And I don't think it's harmful every once in a while to look at the humorous side of it. Because if you don't, it's going to be a long time coming. So,
right. Yeah. The saying goes, the difference between tragedy and comedy is timing. So it's like,
there you go. Yeah.
really tragedy and time or comedy. It's like everybody, at one point, there's been jokes about 9/11. At one point, there's been jokes about the, Unabomber. It's all about timing, and it's eventually sometimes you're just gonna have to be able to laugh a little bit about shit.
Yeah. Yes. So I guess the last thing that I want to touch on and finish this off with is I have been hearing a lot that, people are starting to hit a rut and starting to hit a hole because, like I said, we are so far in. There's conversation of this quarantine going longer, as well as, we're the honeymoon stage of everything new and different and changing routines and kind of getting into that is over. And we're kind of getting into this routine of being home. And so it's a tough time. And I know people in our community are also starting to just kind of hit a rut. But I know that during classes, it's often talked about how being at our gym and in our community or participating in CrossFit, that we're somewhat preparing for this mentally the whole time. And I know that in some of your daily dose, you've talked about it, how we were prepared and we are prepared, and this is like time for us to shine. And so can you just touch briefly on that as kind of a source of motivation for members or just individuals who are starting to hit that rut and like a reminder of like how we are prepared and how we're in this?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people like always want to look at, obviously everybody's focused on where they're going. The rear view mirror in a vehicle is really good to see where you've gone before and what's behind you, but it's not going to tell you the direction that you're going. So most people think of themselves as sitting in the driver's seat, always thinking about the next thing that's in front of them. But the beauty of the rearview mirror that nobody understands is it gives you perspective. And I think taking a second to view the perspective that you have and the habits that you've created to get through this thing is appropriately timed for right now, as we're sitting in third, maybe fourth week for some of us, into the indefinite future. And that perspective really just needs to be thought of as how many repetitions, meaning how many times did you experience something difficult knowing it was going to be difficult? How many times did you show up when there was a mile run to start that workout? How many times did you show up when it was your least favorite barbell movement? How many times did you show up to the gym knowing you were going to do gymnastics that day and gymnastics just aren't your jam? Because I'm willing to bet there are more than 60 repetitions of doing something like that in our facility, because we don't program for your strengths. We program for your weaknesses. We program for you to see and experience that adversity on a very regular basis, because we want to mold your character into something that experiences and is excited to experience the future of adversity that's coming your way. So I think right now it's very important that we use the rearview mirror to get some perspective on what we've gone through and use that as a strength going into the unknown future. Really, the reason people want to know an end date to the whole thing is really basic and simple and very human in nature. We want to know where our structure is and when it's going to return. We want to know when the boundary in the sand that has been drawn will be erased and we can go back to our normal, because we know normal has certain boundaries that we can operate inside of, and that brings a lot of comfort to us. And going into an uncertain future, we can use a lot of the strengths from our past to be successful in that. So what I would encourage is for you to look back. How many repetitions do you have? Because I'm going to guarantee you have more than what this coronavirus has left in it when it comes to your experiences. And you need to lean on those experiences. Today's programmed workout might be A, B, and C movement that you don't like. Well, today is another day of quarantine and you don't like it. You've done this in the past. You can continue to do it into the future. And really what makes the difference is how you choose to carry the weather in that. If you choose to carry your own weather and today's just another day because you know one day your hugs, your high fives, your fist bumps, your regular work schedule and everything is coming back, you're going to get through this thing in a much more positive manner than if you were to just stare at the clock and think this is going to be doom and gloom. And the only thing that, matters is how I feel about this thing. So I guess I would say as a second kind of what to start to do is if you have a tough time dealing with the day-to-day stuff, start to find things that you can do that are inside of your control to maximize your days. If you're somebody who is a giving person, find a way to give. There are tons of ways to give yet. There are blood drives going on. There's donations that can be made. There are masks that can be made by going to fabric shops and purchasing a pre-made package of fabrics. And there are a ton of things that we can do to continue to serve the person that we are that is not just simply sitting at home and watching time go by. So I would suggest two things: looking in the rearview mirror to find what your perspective of the future might be. Again, I guarantee you have some amazing repetitions that you don't even know. And then two, if you need to break up the monotony that the future may hold, find a way to get back to the person that you've always been if it's gotten sidetracked during this time. Find a way to give, find a way to be there, find a way to support. Phones still work, text messages still work, emails will still get sent out. Find a way to support individuals who may, even though you don't think so, who may not have the ability to look at this in such a positive light. So I would say look back because you have a lot of repetitions, and then also look forward and find a way to get back to who you are.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. I think that's great. Awesome. Well, Josh, I appreciate your time. And this is obviously episode 1, so we'll see what else is to come. If there's any recommendations on topics or any questions that anybody has, feel free to reach out through email or direct message on any of our social media channels. We'll touch base soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.